Welcome to Friends of On Marketing. This one's a special one. Before we jump in, Tommy, this is off script. I didn't have this on our menu, but I just want to really note a lot of these people on the Friends. Obviously, people I know, people I'm very close to, and have learned from and connected with. But Tommy and many others hold a special place in my heart. Just very grateful for who you are. We've gotten coffee in person so many times. You're at Kate and I's wedding. You just hold a special place. I really wanted to. I don't know. I had a kind of a thought before this of just like I wanted to share that. I feel too many times we hold that in or we don't have those moments to kind of say just grateful for who you are in my life and just in general who you are as a person, Tommy. So thank you for being here.
Appreciate that. That means a ton. And Becca and I actually were talking about the wedding. This was probably a couple months ago of like, oh, can you remember the time that we went out to Jordan's wedding and thought it might be this big old thing, and then we get there and it's super small and we're still invited? Like, we felt so special. So I echo everything you just said. The coffees, the getting food, you coming down to the SocialSurge events just means a ton. So yeah, it's cool to hop on again.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I thought maybe a unique place to start was maybe for you, Tommy. We have a list of things we'll get to, but maybe for you, who is that person that holds a spot in your life that maybe you share with them, you're grateful for them, but who you wouldn't be maybe who you are, or you're just better because of them? Does anybody come to mind and give them a little shout out on the pod here?
Yeah, is it a cop out to say Eric at this moment?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Some background with that. Obviously, Eric is my boss at SocialSurge. He won't be a fan that I use that word. He's not a big fan of the word boss, but obviously gave me a chance there early in my marketing career. He is also my brother-in-law, which is also really cool. So we have an interesting dynamic where we get to hang out outside of work, and then inside of work, he's literally the person who taught me everything about SEO, pretty much marketing outside of, me just doing my own research. So without him, I probably wouldn't even be on any marketing podcasts. I'd
I
probably still
love
be in
that.
supply chain. So it'd be an
Yeah.
interesting world.
Which is a great place to start because I wanted to go to kind of end of the year here. I'm not exactly sure when this will be dropped, maybe the new year, but it'll be around the time at which a lot of people are spending reflection or just thinking back. I was on your LinkedIn, but I just remember we had conversations around this time, 2020, and that was kind of the COVID pandemic. You did a really cool video that was kind of like on a screen and then kind of shifted, obviously, once the pandemic happened. And I really enjoyed it, but it was just crazy because it hit me. I'm like, wait, that's 4 years ago. Like 2020
Crazy.
doesn't feel that far away. And obviously it then shows how long we've known each other, but maybe just start there, Tommy, both with that reflection in and of itself, but then also just this year, what's kind of your thoughts? I don't know if you're planning to do anything around the reflection, but what is a on the spot reflection? Welcome to a special New Year's edition of Friends of On Marketing. As mentioned in the opening, Tommy is a close friend and peer in the marketing space. He does SEO for SocialSurge, which is based in Milwaukee. I've gone to a few of their events and have learned so much from the events, but more so from Tommy and the rest of the SocialSurge team, Eric, who was on this podcast. In the rest of the episode, Tommy will share his reflection on 2024, baking it into his thoughts when he shared them in 2020. Crazy 4 years has gone by. What growth looks like today for him versus 2020, 2 awesome vacations he went on, and a few reflections, what SEO will look like in 2025 and beyond, and so much more. Tommy is from season 2, episode 2, if you want to go deeper on his insights. This is episode 5 of Friends of On Marketing, recorded on December 17th, 2024. This is a show where I bring friends, former guests of On Marketing, back onto the show to talk anything. Emphasis on the anything. I hope it gets weird. Thank you for being here, and make sure to follow and support my friends. Their work is important, and so is yours. So reach out if you want to chat marketing, and maybe you'll get a future Friends episode. Speaking of On Marketing, next week's 60th episode includes my 2024 reflection along with 7 marketing predictions for 2025. I recorded a LinkedIn Live event where I shared those 7 predictions, but I'm packaging it up into an episode where I share my 2024 reflections and some new father reflections. Before we get back to our conversation, let's get this out of the way. All opinions shared in this podcast are individual views of the host and friends, guests, not those of their employers or associate organizations. This content is intended for informational purposes and should not be considered professional marketing guidance. Listeners act on the information provided at their own risk. Thank you for being here.
That video is still one of my favorites that I've ever done. I think it's super cool, and I don't, as much as us, like all of us post on, socials and stuff, if you do video, you look back and you're like, God, that's cringy. but you look
Yep.
at some of your stuff and
Oh,
you're like, I
so
can't
much.
believe I did that. That is still one that I do not cringe at. I'm like, that is the best thing I've done. But yeah, looking back, I mean, 4 years is crazy. Uh, One of the shots in that is at my dad's cabin when the first year that they bought it, and I'm sitting out on the porch just having a coffee and thinking. To go back to those times is crazy to think about. This year, I mean, I don't plan on doing anything too special for reflection. I just want to take a little bit of time. I always go to my grandma's and we play cards and stuff for New Year's Eve. So that's always special. But we sit there and talk about the year and, what did we do and, conversations we've had and kind of what we're looking forward to in the new year. And I've done that for, I think, since I was maybe 16 with her, which is really cool. So I think that's probably going to be my big piece. I don't know if I have any reflections at this point other than, I mean, I had a crazy year. I got to do some really cool trips and stuff, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of to the point that we were talking a little bit before the pod. Like, I'm kind of taking each day for what it is, appreciating it, and then, moving forward and appreciating that day.
Does any word, any theme come to mind? I know people out there have like words for the year and themes and concepts. Does anything come to your mind? Rebirth, discipline. I'm not just throwing out words. Maybe does anything kind of on this past year that you just focused on, or maybe something that came back into your life that was a refocus? Does anything come to your mind?
Yeah, it might be a little cheesy. I think growth is a piece of it, and there's kind of branches to that. One thing that you and I talked about earlier in the year was like the impact. This is more on the work side, but like the impact of AI and my thoughts around all of that. And after going to Brighton, which I'm sure we'll touch a little bit on, like I've definitely changed my perspective. So like growing in terms of work, of hey, I don't know everything. There's a lot that I still need to learn. And we've grown a ton as a company and had some changes and things that we've had to adapt to. And then on the personal side, it was, I was big into working out and all of that, you know, part of my life. And there was a time period that I needed to take a little bit of a chill pill and grow in other areas more mentally and with my relationships with family and stuff. So as cheesy as it is, and I hate to be that guy, but like growth really was a big piece of this year around friendships, around work, and just realizing that there's, I'm 27 now. I remember when I was 22, I thought I had it all figured out. And I think at the beginning of this year,
Hmm.
I was 26 thinking I had it figured out. And I'm 27 to end the year, and I definitely don't have it figured out. So,
Oh, I'm 29, Tommy, and I don't either. But no, I love
yeah.
how you touched. I think growth definitely fits for you. And I think as you're talking there, I couldn't help but kind of think of the differences or the nuances on your growth. Because I think 2020, just staying with that as an example, maybe that was, or even before that, that when I knew you, you were big on this productivity, personal kind of getting better. So it's almost like the growth then is like a different growth today. And I almost think of this like, I don't know if there's like a word for it, just like this long term, like you're doing the things today, like with your health and fitness and some of these things, at least from my outside vantage point, that seem like it's very more long term, which is a little quieter, little not so loud. Where maybe in the back, like at 2020, you were posting more, you were more out there, which doesn't, you can do both. Obviously, it's not a either or, but that hit me of like, yeah, it's almost like a different growth though from 2020. Like, I don't know, does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you can relate, and I want to hear your 2 cents on this too. But when I was back in 2020, being, 23, 22 years old, whatever it was, like my growth was focused around, you know, maybe it's transparency, money. Like, how do I get better so that I can, make more money, have a higher position in whatever company I'm at? I mean, so much, not all of my growth, but a lot of it was focused around my career, which comes with personal development too, which helps in other areas. But now it's just so much, yeah, it's more in the background. It's more of, how do I have these certain conversations with clients or my grandma, or how do I navigate this friendship that used to be really close and now isn't, and vice versa. Like, hey, a friend that I, talked to for a while, was really close with, kind of drifted, and now we're back, being really close. So it's a lot of stuff that maybe isn't, I don't know, most people might not deem important or a priority, especially in the career world. But personally, I think it's a lot of stuff that I want to work on. It's definitely a shift, though. I mean, if you look back at my LinkedIn in 2020, I was posting like every 3 days. You look at my LinkedIn now, it's like, oh, he reposted, this company thing or this friend thing, and it's like
For real.
it's just a
Yeah.
different piece.
It's
But yeah,
changed. Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? Actually, I'm really curious about like your spot in 2020 and growth to now.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Obviously, I have reread things I've written, like newsletters. I was trying to go find something old on myself on LinkedIn, and I got to all these like marketing minutes that I used to do. And honestly, one unique thing for me, which is a little bit different from you of kind of going from the supply chain or being more in the school mode to now doing SEO and marketing, I kind of always been on this marketing path. So it's a little different in the sense of in maybe this like it, what I was trying to say of you, it's almost like it's not like I have to say it as much anymore. I feel like back when I had to say it more to almost have it resonate with me in staying more outside of marketing, more on like the personal, the habits, all those things. And now today it's like I don't really post a ton about those because I don't feel the need to. And I think it's just what came to my mind as you keep touching on the age, I think, which is obvious, is maturity. Like it's just a more mature growth. To your point, it's like, okay, sure, career is important, but going on a trip, being a well-rounded individual, like there's all these more important things. And I feel like that was something from, because obviously, like you said, you don't post a lot. So I didn't catch that online. More or less when we got together, I remember having a burger together and it just felt different. It's like, this is a more mature Tommy. He's been in the league a few years. He's kind of, getting it under his belt. So I feel like that was something I really wanted to highlight on, because I think to your point, growth can be cheesy, but it's very nuanced for you of this kind of evolution of you're still hustling, you're still doing the things at which you were preaching about or talking louder about, but now you're just like silently hustling. And I admire that and I enjoy it.
I think that's an interesting point, real quick, on that is, back then I was so fresh, and I think a lot of people are at that age, but so fresh even to like personal development. And maybe it's pushed a little bit more these days for younger folks with social media being, I mean, even a bigger player than it was back then. But yeah, to your point, it's like I was trying to shout out all of these things that I was doing, thinking that maybe it would help others. I think if I'm being realistic, it was just a showcase that I'm doing it. Now it's just like to the point where we want to be, where it's just a piece, like a part of me. And I don't need to sit here and shout to everyone that, I'm reading books and I'm doing all of these things. It's like, no, that's just me. So interesting perspective though, to look back.
It was the first few pieces on the fire that needed to start it. Right? It's not things that I look back on either that I'm mad proud of or enjoyed, but I think it was so critical for both of us and probably tons of others to kind of just like you're putting it out there. And I think that's a huge piece of creation in and of itself is and I read this recently, but it's like the best teachers are learning with you. And I think you can learn elsewhere, but that's like an easy place to your point of like accountability. I'll frame it as like a better way than like signaling, which I think I did as well. Virtue signal. Hey, look at me, I'm doing this. But it was like a way of accountability of like, this is my morning routine. I'm going hard, and kind of then using that to discipline me, hold me accountable versus like just myself being like, all right, we're waking up at this time or we're doing it. So I think it's important, but like the fire is still burning because of that. And I think that's also really cool that you haven't like gone away from it per se. It's just resonated more, and the fire doesn't need that type of wood. It can have more sustained, bigger, long term wood. So I love that.
Love
That's
that.
great.
That was the best way to put that. I couldn't
Uh,
think of any way better.
So, Tommy, one thing that I also want to stick on just with kind of a reflection is your fitness. I know when we last chatted and you had a post about this, I believe on Instagram, talking about kind of where you've gone with your fitness, and we spoke on it. How is that journey going? Where are you with that? What's the future looking like for that for you?
Yeah, I'm obviously not the big, 185, 190 that I planned to be at the start of all of that.
Eh,
No, I'm
big
still,
goals, big goals.
yeah, yeah. Eating is the problem.
Mm,
Being a guy who's been skinny my whole life, never realized how hard it is to actually intake enough calories to put on weight. So that was a learning part. But yeah, I'm still big into it. I still try to work out at least 3 days a week. I think I stopped doing the 4 to 5 probably a couple months ago when I knew things were going to get busy with trips and then holidays and things coming up like that. So I just kind of took a little bit of a step back, but still a huge focus, still trying to eat, decently healthy. I've seen it. My dad was a very similar athlete to what I was growing up, both played baseball and basketball. And to see his, as he ages, like his shoulders starting to go more from throwing so much, or his knees from playing catcher, or all of these different things. It's like, how can I, get ahead of the curve? And, we're all fortunate that, science and all of that is, so well known these days, where back then he, didn't know that he needed to stretch more maybe, or, whatever it was. So that's really the biggest focus. Yes, I have personal goals around putting on more weight and muscle and all of that, but I think the biggest change for me since maybe that post is I don't need to be this jacked, ripped guy. It's just I need to be able to function, do that, years and decades down the road, and that kind of starts today. And if I don't do it today, I'm kind of screwed in my perspective down the road. So that's been it's crazy, like talking to you right now, just the shift even since then, which I think that was probably maybe even early this year. So just the change in like perspective and the reasoning behind stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the long term. Is there anything that's kind of non-obvious that you're doing that's focused on long term? If some people do like intermittent fasting, does anything come to your mind, or are you just doing the blocking and tackling the basics?
Yeah, I'd say basics. I mean, the big thing that I keep pushing, friends that are around my age is like you need to stretch way more than you think you do.
Okay. Okay.
Like that is
Go, yeah,
again,
elaborate. How much do you
yeah,
stretch, or what?
I just stretch in the morning and before a workout, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the stretch in the morning is mainly because Eric and I play ping pong when we get to the office. So if I'm not stretched,
You
I might
pull
be a little
some.
rusty. But I do think
Love
that's
that.
like a big piece that I mean, previously, Kevin and I, one of my bosses, talked about how like we didn't like we can continually think about how we're still like 22, like we act like we're 22 and try to do all these things. But then we realize, oh no, we're not that age. Like we're sore, we need to stretch, all that stuff. So
No, I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I think it's important the earlier you can. It's almost like investing with money. The earlier you start to invest in your body, the earlier you realize. I think I read this book, Longevity by Peter Attia. It's all about like you need to do certain things at this certain age. So then when you're 80, you can kind of get up from the ground, or you can pick up your
yeah,
grandchild. And I think it's that mindset that it's like not today, not even tomorrow, but like far into the future, to your point of using your father. So I think that's a really cool point that I wanted to just highlight, because I don't know if I, way back in the past, but I know a lot of people not always focusing on that long term, kind of to your point, thinking that we're 22 forever, which is
yeah,
very easy to do. So
yeah.
Tommy, you touched on, you went on some trips. Go deeper on that. Where did you go? What was your travel schedule for 2024?
One, I don't remember if we ever touched on this, was Hawaii, which was sick. So I went down there for a high school buddy, one of my like best friends in high school, got married down there. And so we got to go down. I think I did over a week. I don't remember, 8 days maybe, which was beautiful. And then the highlight, obviously, the wedding. But I got to go skydiving for the first time, which was
Yeah,
sick.
you enjoyed it. It
Oh,
was
favorite
good.
thing. I once I hit the ground, I'm like, how hard is it to get my license to jump out of a plane consistently?
Yeah,
Like
the
it was,
adrenaline. What was it? What was it?
yeah,
Just
it was kind of crazy because I went up. So obviously you're strapped to somebody else, right? So you're not deploying your parachute or anything. But we're going up and everything, and she just kept saying like, "You're not shaking, you're not nervous. Like this is kind of weird. Like most people are, shaky and nervous." I was just excited the whole time. But then I remember watching a Will Smith thing where he talked about his first time and he like jumped out and how blissful it is once you jump out. It might be nerve wracking before, and it was exactly that. I jumped out. Of course, I did it in a beautiful state of Hawaii. But so I got a cool view, but it was just like so magical. Like you're just floating, you're just cruising through the air and seeing everything around you. And then you pull and you get to kind of cruise around a little bit. So that was unbelievable. I'm hoping to do that once a year. So we'll see.
yeah.
Maybe I
Okay.
can get you to go one of these
Oh
times.
gosh, dude, I'm not sure, man. That's one of the things I've not vowed, but I'm pretty close to being like, I'll never. Tattoos, man, I'll slap a tattoo on me, I don't care. But that's one of the ones that I've not done that I'm kind of nervous. But I guess if
Okay.
you've done it and you're still here with us, so
Yeah.
obviously
You know, if I'm
survivor
gonna,
bias, but
yeah, if I'm gonna go out, that's not a bad way. The funny thing is, I got a tattoo there as well, so I knocked both of those off in one. But
so you do travel tattoos. Yeah, that was something I read
yeah,
as well. Okay.
yeah. So I got
That's fun.
this wrist one actually down in
Oh
Hawaii.
wow. One
And I tried
big.
to
You didn't
like,
do like a little one. Okay.
yeah, I've got a few others. This was probably my biggest so far, but I always try to implement something within the area that I went to. So my first one was on the inner of my arm. That was in Italy, so I got it in Italian. I'm also Italian, so it kind of plays to that part. Got one in Montana, which is kind of a little bit of a mountain-ish triangle piece that I have on my forearm, and then the Hawaiian I got, palm and the I forgot what the flower is, but the leaves of the flower and negative around it. So yeah, so Hawaii was insane. I like such a great trip. And then the other one was San Diego, which we got back from recently, which was for Brighton, but we also did some fun stuff. And that was really cool. Brighton was amazing. That was also my first time out in Cali, which was really cool. And then we were right on the water too, pretty close to. We stayed in Little Italy, which was beautiful. Obviously, again being Italian, I had
Oh.
gelato way too often, probably like 10 times within the 5 days we were there. But
Oh, I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
I think those were the two really big trips this year, unless I'm missing one earlier in the year. But
Oh, I love that. Well,
yeah, super,
let's
super
stay on
cool.
that the San Diego. Let's maybe go a little bit to work, start a little personal. What were some of those key insights, or what were some of your takeaways, things that you've kind of changed or slightly altered your perspective on?
If anyone's in marketing, specifically maybe more on the SEO side or website side, or paid ads, they added that, but definitely worth the trip. You won't regret it. The big thing that I like, one thing somebody said when we were there is we're not in the day and age of people trying to grab more time or attention from people online specifically. Those companies are just trying to grab more real estate. So, as a marketer, as SEO specifically, I'm not trying to grab, more, like get more people online. I'm trying to just grab more attention. So, like, he talked about how Google, their real estate is, we'll say 90% of, this is an exaggeration, but 90% of the time people are on their phones, computers, whatever, they're on Google. He's like, there is no way that Google can go up in that percentage unless they're taking away from somewhere else, which I thought was beautiful because then he tagged it on of now it's our job to realize who is grabbing more real estate throughout the years. So is it Reddit? Are they taking away that time, that percentage away from YouTube or whatever the case may be? And that's where we need to show up. So it's not, yeah, search or people being online is not growing. It's probably, hopefully goes down, right? We should spend less time on our phones and all of that. But it's really about finding like who's taking more of that time, and being able to, if it makes sense, have your voice heard there.
No, I read the Gary Vaynerchuk book, kind of touches on that more like day trade attention is the concept. It's just figuring out where the attention is because, yeah, to your point, it's not really fluctuating, but where or kind of the location of it. I know, like, even in if you search in Google or some of these things, I just saw recently it was like G2 or some of these comparison sites are getting killed by Reddit now. And that's obviously due to like the partnership I think that Google has with Reddit or whatever. But so I think that's very interesting of like thinking constantly about where is that attention and specifically probably for your audience, like where is my audience on there? Because even if everybody's on Twitch, but you're selling to 56-year-olds that aren't on Twitch, I think, you don't want to go there, but it's just really important. That's interesting. Was there any kind of things you disagreed with or were just struggle to kind of grasp from the conference?
Honestly, like a lot of it was very eye opening. So there wasn't too much that I struggled with. I think the big thing is one guy went up and talked, and Eric and I talked about this about like keywords and, how people can use SEMrush to find out the difficulty, to rank for that specific keyword. Say it's, 50 out of 100 or whatever. He just talked about how that's pretty much false. Like, he doesn't really believe that that's the case, that you can pretty much throw difficulty of ranking for a keyword out the window. And he had some, data and analysis around it, but to me that was kind of just something I found hard to believe and just didn't really agree with, just because I mean there's got to be a competitive aspect to, ranking for long tail keywords or informational or whatever. I don't think it is a pure level playing field if my, small site can put this keyword in a bunch of times or however, that's old school, but like I don't think my personal site can rank for something that ESPN is ranking for. Like they'll beat me. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that I would disagree with. The rest was just, yeah, more eye opening than anything.
Was anything on AI and maybe kind of looking to the future SEO in 25 and beyond? Where was that AI part of any conversations? Was that brought into how it will change search?
Yeah, probably 99.999% of the talks were around AI. Yeah, huge piece. A lot of the great stuff that I learned from that was like how different AI, models are indexing pages. So like how ChatGPT is pretty much strictly Bing. Perplexity has their own bot, things like that, which was really, or crawler, I should say, really informational and great to hear. But yeah, I mean, so much of it was around the idea of AI changing search, but then the kind of to what I've always believed in marketing or specifically SEO is like quality content will always win, in my opinion, and I think that was something that was kind of reinforced for the most part. So yeah, talked a lot about AI, but I needed that. If you go back to the event we put on for SocialSurge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I obviously, if we have any loyal listeners, they've hopefully heard that episode where we kind of share a little bit. And I think some of my questions, yeah, were around SGI, which I don't even think it's called that anymore. It's probably evolved to a whole new name, but it is interesting just search in general out of this kind of, you think of the technical website Google, but search in general of like, I may, to your point, go to Reddit, I may go to TikTok even. I know my wife, for example, really goes there to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. And I think it's really changing search, but probably larger content, marketing content in general. Like, where do we create? How do we create? And what's this type of content? I think the whole like what is pages are, no longer useful with AI. So I think we touch on that a little bit in some of it. Like, there's certain levels of, kind of like where you probably should be writing to, where the AI can answer it kind of easily. So yeah, I think it's important. Kind of the thing of growth, or the main kind of core nugget here is just like stay learning. Maybe it's kind of like a continual lesson from this conversation. I feel you're constantly with your health, with everything. You're like updating, rethinking, taking in certain things, but also to the point of the keywords, like rejecting or just saying, I'm not sure about that. Like, let me not fully accept this and kind of hold for a minute, which I think is a power to kind of hold both things in two hands without just saying, let's throw this away because it's stupid, and stick with what I know.
I think to your point early, like way back when we just started this, was like maturity. And I think what you just said is like the exact piece of maturity that at least I found of when I was younger. I would have taken everything for what it is. So that keyword piece, I would have been like, there's no difficulty. Like I'll just
Yeah.
rank for anything.
Yeah.
I think maturity is being able to like sit there and, have your own data or analysis or feeling and be able to reject certain things. So I think that's kind of like been a huge piece for me over the years. Of before it was just automatically like, yep, I'm doing this because this book says so. I need to wake up at 4. It's like, no, these days I'm more mature where I realize that probably isn't the best idea for myself.
Maturity, I'd say obviously wisdom is put in there. I think because I think it comes down to at times to have an opinion, but anybody can have an opinion. To your point, sometimes I think younger me too, like I had very uninformed opinions, or just like they weren't well strung out, where now I'm able to kind of provide a more articulate opinion, or a more well reasoned one that it takes in both sides. And I think that's in every realm of my life, whether spiritually, physically, all realms, where I'm just not kind of, oh, I need to be doing this, I can't eat this, or all that, which can work for certain people, especially if you have like allergies or certain things. But I think the middle path, as like Buddhist or Hindu or whatever kind of suggests, is usually right, kind of knowing both sides of it, and moving with the ability to think. This takes us to the end here. This was a great conversation. Good to catch up. I know there'll be many more in the future. What are you working on anything? Are you thinking about anything in 2025 that you'd want to share with the audience? Anything at Social Surge that is worth?
Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything super wild. I mean, we're from Brighton, we're learning a lot of, local SEO changes, AI stuff, fun things like that. It's probably the first time in my life since we've known each other I don't have a project at the moment,
Yeah,
like
that's
some fun.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a different world,
No
right?
newsletter, but you have the Social Surge newsletter, which you don't do maybe, but you're some or
Depends. I'm in
Depends.
some occasions. I pushed it off
Sure,
this
sure.
past month to somebody
Okay.
else, but yeah, I flirted with the idea of bringing back the SEO snack and maybe just doing monthly or something like that. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But
Just
at the
time, hey?
yeah, right now
It's
I
hard
think
not to.
we're just chilling. So
Survive. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I
yeah,
love it. Focusing on what matters, right? I think that's the whole
totally.
maturity wisdom, knowing that you can't do all things, so do
Yeah,
the right things. I love that.
hundred
Well,
percent.
thank you. Thank you again, Tommy, for coming on,
Yeah,
man.
appreciate you having me on.
And this is the end of the podcast. What one idea or topic of conversation stood out to you today? Write it down, share it with a friend, post on social. The main thing is take action. That's how we go from theory to mastery. We need to practice. We need to put it into practice. Thank you for listening and being here, and I hope you tune in next week.